Hello.
Hey, man.
Hi. Hi, nice
Hey,
to meet you. Uh,
nice to meet you too. What do you go by?
Ollie is fine
Ollie?
with me.
Okay. How can I help
Yeah.
you today, Ollie?
I guess I had a question about relationships, and
Great. Let's talk
mostly
about
it's
it.
just about a lot of times like I'm not happy in a lot of relationships, but I don't know like how to leave or how to like prioritize myself more, you know?
Sure.
And yeah, I just don't know why I do that. Like I know like the steps to take. Like I'm like, okay, I'll just like, tell him, hey, I'm not really happy. I should probably focus on myself, blah blah blah. But I just can't do it,
Okay.
or I just like even when the relationship's like coming to an end, I just like start panicking and I try to like fix it. I'm like, oh no, let's try to work it out, even though I really don't want to be in it. And yeah,
Okay. Can
that's
you
right.
help?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's. I'm really glad you came in today and are sharing this question or concern because I think it's a really important thing that a lot of people struggle with. So I think the way to approach situations like this, is to first understand what is going on inside you. So when a
Mhm.
relationship is starting to come to an end, let's actually start a little bit before that. So when you say you're
Okay.
unhappy in a relationship, what does that mean?
It's like either I'm bored or I just don't really like the person that I'm with is like hurtful in a certain way or like are doing something that's just like upsetting me or
Can
it's just um
can you give me an example of what's hurtful in a relationship?
well I guess the the last person that I was with I mean they were nice and all and like it was like a okay relationship overall but I think a lot of times she would make comments about me being like awkward or like shy and stuff. And it just made me, like, feel worse about myself, and I never really, like, spoke up about it, like, whenever she'd say, "Oh, like, I really don't like it when you don't, like, try to talk to people more or,
Okay,
like, you walk really awkwardly," and I don't know, like, it kinda just, like it makes me act more awkward around her and all that stuff,
sure.
and, yeah, I just at the time, I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's my fault, I'm the dumbass who's awkward," it's not at all you.
Okay.
Yeah, and
So,
whenever we had
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, whenever we had, like, conversations about, like, breaking things off, it would kinda just go into, like, me saying, "Oh, no, well, I'll try to work on myself, these are things I'll fix eventually in the future, blah, blah, blah." And
S-
yeah.
So in those Okay, so there are a couple of things that we have to kind of like unpack here, okay, Ollie?
Yeah.
So let's start with like what's in your mind when you're in this situation. So when the way you asked the question, you were like, when relationships are unhealthy for me, it was almost like you were saying, I don't have the courage to break up with them. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, that kinda makes sense, yeah.
But I think that that could be a little bit misleading because if in the moment you actually believe what they say, then it's not about courage because you actually genuinely think that you're at fault.
Yeah.
Right? There are two issues here. One is that you may believe that you're at fault. And so, like, if you're the problem, like, how does breaking up help anything? You need to fix yourself and then the relationship will be healthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then the other option is that you're not at fault, but you have trouble like being confrontational or stating your views for some reason.
Yeah.
And it can be a blend of both, but which one are we talking about here? Like which
I
one do
think
you fall into?
I think it's a mix of both. I would say the latter is more like just
Okay.
not being able to like be confrontational and stuff
Okay. So
is like yeah.
how do you feel like so it sounds like at times when she said, "Oh, you're awkward or you walk funny," you were like, "Yeah, I'm the dumbass that dot dot dot." But then when you do know that you kind of want to break up with them, what gets in the way of you telling them?
I guess kind of just like when I think about it, I'm just like, oh well, like if I go through with this, it's just sorry, I just need to like think about this for a second. I think it's
Good.
just,
Take a second to think about it.
I mean, it's like a mix of like emotions. It's not just like, oh, like I don't like one is just I don't I feel like me saying, "Oh, I just don't wanna, like, make this work anymore," sometimes feels like, "Oh, it's just me being, like, weak," you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
like, with that person, like, the issue was just, like, me being, like, a little, like, anxious and stuff or just awkward. And I feel like me saying, like, "Oh, like, I don't wanna do this anymore," felt like, "Oh, like, I have these problems and they're never gonna go away, so why would I try to, like, fix them or something like that?" Or just like, "Oh, like, once I'm done, like, no one else would, like, ever, like, wanna be with me, blah, blah, blah," like, something dramatic like that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's
I understood that last part. I was a little bit confused about some. You said something about this is never going to get better. So what? Help me understand that.
oh, it's just like, like, me, like, ending the things breaking up with them or whatever would mean that, like, oh, I couldn't fix my problem, like, I wasn't able to, like, find a
I see.
solution, so I just gave up. Yeah.
Are you concerned about how they would feel if you broke up with them?
Yeah.
And how do you feel? What are your concerns about their feelings?
I mean, I just don't wanna, like, hurt their feelings or just make them feel bad, you know?
Do you feel responsible for their feelings?
A bit, yeah. Like, not like, like, well, if I, like, do something that, like, hurts them, I, like, feel really bad, and I'm just like, "Oh, why did I do that?" You know?
Yeah, so Ali, there's something really, really dangerous you're doing here, right? So let me just kind of try to lay this out. So, one is there's a fatalistic view about yourself. Like, if I break up with them, I have to fix this problem. I can't fix this problem now, so I won't be able to fix it later. I might as well stay in the relationship. And so, in a
Yeah,
weird way, what you're doing is you're sort of saying, like, I don't have the control or strength, because you call yourself weak, to fix myself. And so there's it's kind of interesting because it's sort of like you don't have the power to control your own life. And then your mind does something really, really dangerous, which is a lethal combination with that one. It's like a combo, which is that you do have the power to control their lives. Because if you don't break up with them, at least they'll be happy. Or if you do break up with them, they'll be sad. And that's something you can fix. So I think the reason
yeah,
that you have trouble in these sorts of situations is because there's like a 1-2 punch of I can't make myself happy, but I can make them happy. And so if you really think about it, it's like a logical no-brainer that like why would you cuz you're if you break up with them it's not like you're going to be able to fix the problem anyway. So why would you hurt them if you're just going to be screwed on your own and you're going to screw them over too? Why not just stay in the relationship and at least make them happy because it's not like you're salvageable?
yeah.
Does that resonate at all or not so much?
Um, yeah, I mean, that's kinda on the spot, really, you know?
So so that's tricky, right? Because it's like this is where I want you to understand, Ali, you're not stupid and you're not weak. You're actually like a caring, intelligent person. And you're just making that judgment call based on the data that you've got, which is like I can make them happy and stay in the relationship and sacrifice my own happiness, but even if I break up with them, it's not like I'm going to be happy anyway. So there's like it's like a no-brainer of a choice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's not I don't know, I'm kinda just like the way I work it in my head, like,
Exactly.
it's
The way
not
you work it in your head
yeah,
is like it's just a terrible idea on all fronts to break up because breaking up is going to hurt them and it's not going to help you. So why do it? You might as well
yeah,
work on yourself, fix yourself in the relationship, and then everything will change. So if you want
yeah,
to tackle that 1-2 punch of I can make their life better and I can't make mine better, right? So that's the tricky
mhm.
thing. If you want to tackle that, you have to tackle those assumptions. So why do you believe that you can't, work on yourself more? Why do you believe where does the belief that you're a weak person come from?
I guess, like, a mix of things, I don't I mean, I don't think I'm like entirely a weak person, but I mean, a lot of times when I try to like work on myself, like start building routines, like exercising and all that stuff, like things go well for a while, and then like the littlest thing happens, and it kind of just sets off like a domino effect where everything just
Yep.
kind of fumbles down. So it's just I just feel like, oh, like if I'm reacting so negatively to like the smallest thing, then
Yeah.
I
So
must be weak.
Ali, that's like when the power, or there's a part when you start to put your life together, you have a small setback,
Hmm.
and then there's a part of your mind that says, "I told you so. I told you couldn't
Yeah,
do it." What were you
yeah,
thinking, Ali? That you could
yeah,
put your life together? How stupid can you
yeah.
be? I told you so. You better not try. And so that's the thing that you really, really have to tackle, right? So, like, where does that
Hmm.
voice come from? Because I don't think you're a failure at all. It's just you have a samskar, which is Samskara. You have this like
Hmm.
this programming in your mind that tells you, it's like the voice that was implanted in your mind that tells you that you're incapable of change. And
Yeah.
so like, you really have to dig into where that voice comes from. Do you know?
Um, I think I do kinda ish. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of incidents like that
Yep.
I've like because like I think like I've never been like the smart kid ever, you know, in school at least. And I remember in middle school, I took like we took like I grew up in Iran for like background and stuff. And we had like standardized tests that would kind of evaluate your like math and like language scores and all that stuff. And it was like ranked. And I actually scored like really high on that. And I felt pretty good about myself that day because I was like, oh, maybe I'm not stupid, you know? And I felt like, okay, maybe I can start doing better in school. I can start focusing on myself and like all that stuff. And then the same day, we had like, like binders in our locker rooms and stuff. And like the dean would just check them on daily to make sure we're like organized and stuff. And he checked mine. I'm not a very organized person. So he got very upset at that, and he came to class and he threw the binder at me and started yelling at me, saying I'm like a failure or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess he has a point.
Well, so I think
Yeah,
that's a very insightful story to share, Ali, because that's it, right? It's not just
yeah,
that he threw the binder at you; it's that he threw the binder on at you on the same day that you did well in the class in the standardized
yeah,
test. So it's like when
yeah,
you succeed, you know, like Ali, when you're about to succeed, Ali steps in and snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. Like you're about to win, and then like something shows up and then like teaches you, puts you in your place. How dare you think you're smart, Ali?
yeah,
And so just notice that pattern, because like it's really challenging, because as long as that pattern is there, it's going to be really hard, because anytime you try to take a step forward, the pattern is triggered by your actual success.
hmm.
Like, does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect
You
sense.
don't
Yeah, I
say "I
mean,
told you so" until you start succeeding. And that's what's like, it's like, this is OP. It's like it's completely broken and needs to be patched, because any step
yeah,
forward you take, it triggers the pattern. So that it's almost like, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but when I think about patterns like this, I actually think about HIV. And the problem with HIV is that it attacks the very part of your immune system that fights viruses. And so in that way, like, you have this pattern in your mind that attacks the part of your mind that helps you get out of like negative emotional and mental spaces.
yeah,
And and so this is a sort of situation where I think it's really important to recognize that you're not actually failing. It's just anytime you start to succeed and you're actually succeeding, this pattern is going to wake up and tell you that you're failing. And be aware of that and recognize that, like, the stronger that pattern is, oddly enough, the better you're doing, because it doesn't turn on unless you're doing well. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, it's kind of, I mean, it's also like, I don't know if this is like related or not, but it's also when when I do bad, right? Like, I kind of like it also like activates like in a
Yep.
way where it's like, oh, hey, you're just falling behind again. Like, what's the point of trying? Because like, you're already so behind, and it's stupid, but it's still,
So it's not stupid, Ollie. That's the thing that you've got to
yeah,
understand is you have to understand that these thoughts in
okay,
your mind are coming from experience. And so as long as you treat them as stupid, you're not going to be able to overcome them. And so actually what you want to do is like recognize that in some weird way your mind is twisting to make that not stupid.
hmm
And then you have to learn how to untwist, which is sort of like there's sort of this "I told you so, you're not worth a whole lot" kind of like attitude. And I think as long as that attitude is there, you're going to continue getting into these situations in your relationships. And to really unpack that attitude, you've got two or three options. One is to recognize the attitude as it arises and try to be
hmm
really objective in those moments about, okay, my mind is telling me I told you so.
yeah,
My mind is telling me that I'm not going to do anything. But if I really stop and think about it, I've been exercising for a week and like this is one day that I've messed up. So
yeah,
recognize it and sort of just see. You don't have to tell it it's stupid. You just have to like try to see the other side of the coin. The second thing that you could really do, I mean, this sounds like prime for, depending on what you've been through, I would strongly consider getting evaluated by a mental health professional.
hmm
Because maybe there could be elements of like trauma or depression or things like that may be like clinical in nature that you could benefit from. And if you want to work on the scar itself, you don't have to see a therapist for that if you don't have a clinical sort of issue. And then like coaching is sort of designed to help people work through those kinds of issues and help you understand your patterns. That's really what coaching is about.
yeah,
But I definitely think that this is not a journey that you need to walk alone. Although I think if you work at it, like I think you can figure it out on your own through meditation, through reflection, things like that. Because you sound to me to
yeah,
be actually a pretty capable guy and very insightful, which I think is really what you need.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that sounds right. I mean, I've been trying therapy for a while. It's just, I don't know. I've yet to like meet someone that's like I'm able to like talk to in like a way where like I feel like there's an understanding or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yeah, and if there isn't an understanding, whose fault is that?
it's their fault.
Good.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna toss one last thing to you, okay?
Yeah.
It's their fault, but it's also your responsibility.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in. Hopefully that was
Yeah.
helpful.
No, that was really helpful. Yeah. Thank you so much for all the kind words and stuff. All
Thank
that.
you for calling in. I think your question and concern is something that a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. Yeah. I'm glad. I hope someone else could relate to that too. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Adios.